The U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee has barred transgender women from competing in sports with its new policy. Let me explain. The U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, USOPC, has changed its policy on transgender women in sports to align with interpretations of transgender athlete policies from the Trump administration. The policy change specifically targets transgender women and girls participating in women's sports and does not address transgender men or men's sports categories, aligning with Trump's initiatives on the matter. The new policy falls under the USOPC athlete safety policy and cites an executive order signed by President Trump in February, titled Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports, though in the policy change they refer to it as Executive Order 14201. The executive order directs the Department of Justice to enforce a ban on transgender girls and women participating in school sports, based on the administration's interpretation of Title IV, which addresses sex-based discrimination in education. At the time of signing, experts predicted the move would spark a prolonged conflict with sports authorities, hence the USOPC's policy change. The new policy requires that national governing bodies affiliated with the USOPC, including those overseeing Olympic-level sports across all age groups, adhere to the updated standards. On Tuesday, July 22nd, a letter was sent to the Team USA community acknowledging the change. It stated, "As a federally chartered organization, we have an obligation to comply with federal expectations." USA Fencing was the first governing body to publicly respond, announcing new rules set to take effect on August 1st. Under the updated policy, transgender women, as well as non-binary athletes not eligible for the women's category, will only be permitted to compete in the men's division. While fencing is one of the first to adapt its policy, experts suggest that how other sports organizations and governing bodies respond may vary significantly, especially in states like California and Minnesota, which have actively opposed Trump's ban on transgender women and girls in sports. In 1978, the Ted Stevens Olympic and Amateur Sports Act was passed to address disorganization and favoritism in athletics by centralizing oversight under the USOPC. From 1978 to 2020, the USOPC largely operated with minimal federal intervention. That changed following the Larry Nassar abuse scandal, which involved high-profile athletes such as Simone Biles. In response, Congress passed the Empowering Olympic, Paralympic, and Amateur Athletes Act of 2020, which increased federal oversight and granted Congress the authority to dissolve the USOPC board in order to strengthen athlete protections. In response to the recent policy change, the National Women's Law Center released a statement. By giving in to political demands, the USOPC is sacrificing the need and safety of its own athletes. Riley Gaines, who began advocating against transgender women in sports after tying for 5th place with trans swimmer Leah Thomas, said, "It's hard to applaud an organization for merely following the law, but nonetheless, this is a win." What do you think about the USOPC's policy change on transgender athletes? Let us know in the comments.